प्राचीन काल से विश्व भर में व्यापार क्षेत्र में प्रचलित रहा है सूरत शहर। सिल्क सिटी और डायमंड सिटी का खिताब पाने वाला सूरत शहर कपड़ा एवं हीरे के गहनों के सर्वाधिक उत्पादन से समग्र राष्ट्र में प्रथम क्रम पर रहा है। इस शहर के व्यापारियों, उद्योग साहसिकों और नए उद्यमियों के स्टार्टअप को प्रोत्साहन, वित्तीय सहाय संबंधित मार्गदर्शन एवं योग्य मंच मुहैया करवाने हेतु सूरत स्मार्ट सिटी डेवलपमेंट लिमिटेड द्वारा एक महत्वपूर्ण प्रयास यानी अटल इनोवेशन मिशन अंतर्गत मान्यता प्राप्त इनोवेशन, इंक्यूबेशन, स्टार्टअप एंड ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन सेंटर AIC सुरती आई लैब, जिसका उद्घाटन माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी के कर कमलों द्वारा हुआ। इंटीग्रेटर, एग्रीगेटर, कोलैबोरेटर और फैसिलिटेटर के रूप में स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को बढ़ावा देने हेतु AIC सुरती आई लैब कार्यरत है। भारत सरकार की एवं गुजरात सरकार की इनोवेशन प्रमोशन योजनाओं का अनुमोदन करते हुए 120 कोवर्किंग कैपेसिटी वाले इस केंद्र में उद्यमशीलता को बढ़ावा देने हेतु अलग वातानुकूलित कैबिन्स, अत्याधुनिक उपकरणों से सुसज्जित मीटिंग रूम्स, टीचिंग लैब, मिनी लैब, वर्कशॉप रूम, सुविधाजनक ऑडिटोरियम के साथ पेंट्री रूम, कैफेटेरिया और फ्री वाईफाई जैसी अनेक सुविधाएं उपलब्ध है। हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए SVNIT, औरो यूनिवर्सिटी, यस बैंक, द साउथ गुजरात चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड इंडस्ट्री जैसे करीब 19 फैसिलिटेटर, वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट और इन्वेस्टर पार्टनर्स की मदद से स्टार्टअप को जरूरी प्लेटफॉर्म उपलब्ध करवाया जाता है। इस प्रकल्प द्वारा स्थानिक लघु उद्योगों एवं स्टार्टअप एकमों को राष्ट्रीय एवं अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंध स्थापित करते हुए अपने व्यवसाय के विकास में सहाय रूप मंच प्राप्त होगा। AIC सुरती आई लैब सूरत महानगर पालिका एवं सूरत स्मार्ट सिटी डेवलपमेंट लिमिटेड द्वारा सूरत शहर के वाणिज्य क्षेत्र में एक और स्मार्ट कदम।
Good evening everyone and welcome to AIC Suti iLab. We are in the fourth session of this series on SQL Citation, where we are discussing various topics of Microsoft SQL Server 2019, and my friend Hemangiri Goswami is doing a wonderful job of introducing to various tools and techniques of how to work with Microsoft SQL Server 2019. Today we are going to see how the native tools of SQL Server 2019 can be used for monitoring of various aspects of SQL Server. I very clearly remember the first thing I was talking in year 1997-98. SMC, I was with SMC at that time, and we were using SQL Server 7, which was a new thing at that time, and Oracle was the market leader and SQL Server was a newbie on the block. So at that time, one of my friend who was a US consultant with a US based company and working as a Oracle DBA, he happened to be at SMC. And I asked him, what do you think is the main role or main functions of a DBA? And he started by saying that every day he needs to check on the various table spaces and size of the tables of in each of the databases, and that was the most of the chunk. Uh, then I was surprised and I asked, I hadn't had much idea about how Oracle worked at that time because I was purely a Microsoft SQL Server man. So I was really surprised to learn that whatever SQL Server 7 or newbie on the block was doing it automatically, and where the SQL DBA would not have to even waste 1% of the time. Why would someone waste a time on such unnecessary task? And then I ended up showing some tools which were inbuilt into SQL Server for tracking various things on performance and all those things. And he was astonished, and he said that he should migrate to SQL Server as fast as possible, because that way he would be not wasting his time and efforts on unnecessary things, and his life would be easy. So this I am talking about was in 97-98. Today we are in 2021 and SQL Server has come a long way, and there are so many improvements in all the different tools, where is be the its own performance monitoring inbuilt tool, or the Windows performance counters, or the scripts, inbuilt scripts, and all those things. uh, and I'm happy to tell that people like Hemant, who are day in and day out working on this, they have that particular knack that they will be creating their own scripts and tools which go far beyond what SQL Server built-in tools provide. So I would not be hogging much of the limelight today, and I will be passing over the baton to Hemant Giri. Hemant Giri will detail all these things and show you how the things can be done very easily on SQL Server 2019. Over to you, Hemant Giri. Welcome, and please take the baton.
Thank you very much, Tejas bhai. Good evening, friends. Um, as Tejas bhai mentioned, today's topic is about how do we use built-in or native scripts and tools to monitor the activities inside of SQL Server. Right? Uh, this is the first slide, and some information about myself. My name is Hemant Giri Goswami. I'm very active on Twitter. My Twitter handle. My LinkedIn and YouTube channel details are mentioned here. And recently, on the 1st of August, I was awarded Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Award. This is my fifth award, and here are some other details about my blogs and my book. Right? Okay, let's move to the next slide and skip to the agenda. So this is the topic for the day: SQL Server monitoring the native way. Okay, so here is the agenda for the day. What is first I will explain about what is monitoring. Then I will be explaining two types of monitoring: reactive and proactive monitoring, and then we will skip to the demos. Let's see what is monitoring. So monitoring is nothing but observing, recording of a project or a program which has a purpose, and it is very important. Right? Otherwise, why would you spend your time, money, effort on monitoring? Right? So let's say, for example, let's talk about the databases or data. And I would again like to coin this word that or the statement: data is a new gold. Right? Earlier, this used to be petroleum product and other things, but data is a new gold in this era. The the organizers who own the data has almost everything, right? So data is the most important thing, and the data resides or managed in the database system. So how your data is being worked upon or processed, uh, and that particular database is on some server. In our case, it is SQL Server. So how your SQL Server is performing, it is efficiently performing or not, it has some issues or not. So those kind of thing that we are talking about, like more observing and recording of the SQL Server activities, and the purpose is we need to see how it is uh, working or processing your data. And it is very important, because that is about a data, and data is a new gold, right? So that is about the monitoring. um, there are two types of monitoring, I would say. One is reactive monitoring and the other is proactive monitoring. First, let's see about the reactive monitoring. So reactive monitoring is measuring safety or performance by reference to an accident or incident, right? So let's say there is uh, there is an incident, and the SQL server or the Windows server where the SQL server runs goes down, or it is not available. it is not reachable. The application is not working. The user starts complaining. The issue get escalated to the technical team. Technical team then go to the data center and see why the SQL server or the is not responding, and there they find that okay, there is some issues with the power supply, and to that very SQL server, and it is unexpectedly shut down, and that is why the server is not reachable because it is not running. Right. So this is something I will call as a reactive monitoring, because you are now responding to some incident, right? So this is called reactive monitoring. So let's take another example. Say for example, application is running, and some users started to complain that okay, my queries, my reports that were running fine earlier now is taking too much of time. So based on this particular incident, the issue is then reported to the development team. Development team will then uh, raise one more ticket to get an access to the production system, or they raise the issue to the DBA, and then DBA go and check why this particular report runs slow now earlier, which is running fine, right? So this is again reactive monitoring, or responding to an incident. So that is reactive monitoring. Now let's talk about the proactive monitoring. So by definition, it is a technique that includes inspection, right? Inspection and audits. These are the important words: inspection and audits, where objective is to obtain performance feedback and enabling corrective action to be taken prior to any failure in the system, right? So instead of users started to complain that this particular query is performing slow, which was running fine earlier, how about having a report or an alert uh, saying you that okay, this query is now taking much time, which was running fine earlier, right? So that is, this is proactive monitoring. Or say example, if your let's say the hard disk, right, the disk where the database is stored is having about 100 GB of capacity, and the data growth is exponential for some reason nowadays, and it started to fill up very quickly than what you have expected, right? So and you have some monitoring placed where your system will send you an alert when the your hard disk uh, filled 90%, right? So that is called a threshold value. So what your alerting system or monitoring system will do is it will send you an alert that okay, the hard disk is 90% filled, do some maintenance work, or expand the disk, or move the database to other disk, and so and forth. Those kind of things that you can do before actually your system go down, or your data, because disk is full, and then no more records will get inserted into the database. That kind of situation you can avoid very effectively when you have proactive monitoring in place, right? So these are some these are the two type of monitoring: reactive and proactive. Well, I would also like to mention about the best practice, because whenever you will read an articles, or when you talk to senior DBA or experienced people or developers or CTO, those people will definitely will tell you about okay, read what is the best practices for this particular thing. So you may be wondering what is the best practice. So best practice is nothing but it is not a rule of thumb, it is a standard that works or suit for your environment. So best practice is not a rule of thumb, right? things that will work in your environment or it is suitable to your environment is considered a best practice. It may be different for other environments, but it should be suitable in your environment and should be standard that works for your environment. So that is considered best practice. Right. So let's pray to God, because this is the time we will talk less and we'll have more of demos this time. But let's pray to the God that our demo will work, unlike the Tesla Cybertruck. Fine. Let me. Uh, yeah. Okay. Let me show you some monitoring that I have placed in my development server. Say for example, these are the some alerts that has been sent to my email ID. You can use this kind of alert system setup to send you an alert over your pager device, etc. Right? So let's see what and how this looks like. So this particular email, this particular alert is complaining about the job that is failed. Right? So what this report looks like, or what this report will give you an idea about it. Okay, this particular job runs on this date, this time, and this job is failed. It will also say give you the job name so that you can have an idea, and it also give you the details about why the job failed. Right? So this particular job I said created just so that it failed and we can have a report generated. Could not find this to procedure so and so. So now is the time that you go and work on the system and make a corrective action so that this job run fine. Right? So this report you can run as per your standard, as per your best practice, right? Maybe every hour or every 24 hour, say twice a week, whatever that suits your environment according to your best practice. Fine. Then there is also an alert that reads your log, error log, right? Monitoring for the server. So this is how it looks. It reports you the log date, the process info, and the actual text, right? So this particular text, if you read, it says service broker endpoint is disabled or in stop mode, this particular error 517, or let's say this guy that reads cannot create this MDF file because it already exists, right? So these are kind of the error that is reported into your log file. Error log file records that, and then this particular alert reads all these details and then send it to you via an email. Okay, I have mimicked these two alerts, three alerts, so that we can have the report and you can see how it look like. Right? So let's say the CPU is almost not consumed, but this is how your alert will look like if your CPU goes high, right? Um, let's say about memory, so I again said mimic this particular alert, threshold value is tweaked so that it sends you the report, and then I can show you how this report looks like, right? um, we were talking about the proactive monitoring, right? So this can be the best example, this space utilization report. It says, okay, C drive disk space is total in GB 98.51, available is 24.12, so it's roughly makes 24% of free space available, right? So maybe your maybe you have some different threshold value set in your some other monitoring tool that you are using, you can alter this threshold value uh, to the best according to best practice of your organization, and then based on this number you can take an corrective action like expanding this particular disk or moving some files folders that are sized into the other disk, and so forth, right? So these are the things that will be used for monitoring. For example, let's take another example. This I have done in July 15 for one of my presentation, monitoring always on status, pending logs to be sent to the secondary uh, health status, if it is healthy, always on databases are healthy or not, if the databases all the databases on that particular server is part of the always on availability group or not, right? These are the things that I have configured, but there are this is not limited to this particular thing, right? These are the only few example, a handful of example I would say that I have created so that I can show you an examples, but there are, believe me, there are lots and lots of monitoring that you can set up with your SQL server. Let's see how, I mean, there are different ways or different other things that you can monitor, right? So let's see a few things first. This is the basic query. Okay, let me also mention this that I will be sharing all this script that I am running. I'll be sharing my presentation as well. So you will have them handy, and then you can tweak this query according to your need and then use it uh, as per your best practice for your organization to set up a monitoring. Right? I am not using any monitoring tool at all, but I am using just plainly the things that SQL Server has provided. Me, yeah, there was some latency issues. So yeah, this is the feature that I was talking about. For all these alert to be received, right? You need to configure the database mail feature. So what you need to do is you need to go to the management folder, expand it. You will see the database mail. So first time when you click on right click and say configure database mail, it will enable this feature. But since I have already configured this database mail configuration, it will not show me that dialog box. But okay, let's move forward with this so that I can quickly show you how and what values you should be used to set this thing up. You will be seeing that okay, database mail accounts and profiles, database mail security and mail system parameters. So these are the main three options that you will be using, but let's go. The first thing is set up a database mail by performing the following tasks. So you need to have a new email profile. You will need to have the SMTP details. Let's click on next and see the parameters in actual. So here you will mention the profile name, here you will mention the description, and this is an actual SMTP configuration for that particular account. So let me click on new account. So this is how your dialog box will appear, right? So you will need to mention the account name. I have mentioned SQL monitoring. To set some description if you need, this is optional. Then you have to mention the outgoing mail server detail, SMTP details, email ID, the display name, the reply email. Sometimes these two are different, right? So when someone receive the alert and if click and reply button, it may be different. Some organization want you to send an email to a ticketing system email ID, right? So that ticket will get created automatically. So you can mention that email ID here as well, or maybe it is different. As I mentioned, best practice according to your environment and your company standard. then you will have to mention here the SMTP server name and the port number. Please make sure that you checkbox click here on this checkbox, because this is where most of the uh, time the I mean nowadays most of the email system uses the secure connection. Once that is done, you need to click on basic authentication, provide your username, that is your email ID, password, confirm password, and click on OK. That will be done, and it will then look like this particular thing here with all the details populated, right? This is how it is. So this is the database mail configuration, and as I mentioned, this is the query that will give you the job related, job failure or job success detail. Particularly, you don't want to see a report where it mentioned, okay, these are the number of jobs that runs fine and it was successful, but you definitely want to have a report where it is mentioned that, okay, this many jobs are failed. So this is this query. Then this particular query is one of my favorite, or my favorite monitoring. So what happens whenever you do things like, say for example, if you do the backup, right? So let's take an example. Okay, me let me just run a command, backup database to. Okay, I would like to mention one more thing when I'm um showing you this particular example, right? So here I have mentioned a checksum parameter. So this is the most important thing, because what it will do is it will validate your backup file, right? Because if your database backup is corrupted or is not validated, and I mean, or it gets corrupted, all your purpose of having backup is wasted, right? So please use the checksum parameter whenever you do the backup, so that you will have a proper backup file that is restorable and can work. Okay. So here is my backup failed because it cannot open the backup device. So and so backup database command is terminated abnormally. So this is some activity which is failed, right? And what it will do is, inside of this management folder you will see the SQL Server Logs folder. SQL Server Logs folder contains these log entries. The first one is current, where you will find all the current activities. So at this very moment, what happened was the backup is terminated. I run the backup command, but it failed, right? So you will find this, right? Uh, backup failed to complete the command backup database dbadb. It mention your error number, the command, all those things, right? So these are the things will get recorded into the your SQL Server log. And this particular query that I was talking about, which I mentioned that it is my favorite query. What normally we do as a database administrator, we often read SQL Server error logs, and to avoid doing all this thing manually, we set things like this particular monitoring where it reports all the errors to us whenever they occur. So uh, this particular query, what it does is it uses the xpread error log command. That 0 is your current file. This is about your SQL Server error log. Then there will be also SQL Server agent logs, right? If you are not aware, it is there. If you open expand the SQL Server agent, you will find the error log folder and you will see the similar structured log files, right? So th these details are there as well, so you need to mention them. Then there are few parameters that I have not used, and this is date start and date end, right? So I have used these commands for filtering. Interval minutes is 120, date end is get date, so today's date, and date start is uh, 120 minutes. That means past 2 hours of data it will give me. So that means my monitoring is set to send me an email if there are any errors in that happens in past 2 hours, right? So let me run this query, right? So let me, yeah, I I really hope that this is visible to you, but these are the same details that we saw here in this particular window. Right? Let me put them side by side, right? Um, so these are the same details. So this is how it works. So this is very important thing, that because everything that happens or that SQL Server does process it, and if error or warnings are reported, or for things like backup succeeded, those things are recorded in the SQL Server error logs. So you read the error logs, set the filter the way you want according to your best practice, your organization's best practice and need, then set the alert system to send you the reports. Okay, one more very important thing is about getting a CPU process utilization or the CPU usage, right? Fine. So this particular query uses ring buffer scheduler monitor, right? This is the DMB. There are lots of DMVs like this which will give you the OS related informations. So for this particular monitoring, we have used system DMOS ring buffers, and what it will do is it will give the top 30 process utilization as a CPU utilization. Right? Okay. Then based on that, what been done is also added some additional information like, okay, what is the server name or the instance name. From sys configuration we'll be getting the maximum server memory configuration, memory usage, physical memory, available memory, and the memory state, right? And all these details, right, all these details is then processed, and it will give you the result that will look like this, right? So this report will give you the instance name, the maximum memory which is configured, currently how much memory is in use, total physical memory, available memory to the system, right? And if the available physical memory is high or low, this particular state will give you the detail. If you remember, when I was showing you the email alerts that I have received, I mentioned that I have mimicked the threshold values, right? Let me show you the memory, right? So see current memory state description, which says okay, available physical memory is high. So but this particular report has a threshold to send you an alert when the memory utilization is high. Here it is not the case, but since this is a demo, I have mimicked the lower the threshold, adjust the threshold so that I can show you the details, right? Then you will see the CPU related details. So process utilization in last 30, 15, 10 and 5 records is 0, and even though it is 0, based on my configuration or the adjustment in threshold, it is also reported. But this is very important, right? If you uh, say for example uh, this value here, let me quickly open this alert so that I can show you it. CPU and memory monitoring. Right, so this is the same thing, but what I have done is here I have changed two values, right? Um, First thing is here uh, I have set this to 0, this value to 0, but you can that configure it according to your need. You can say 90%, 80%, 70% according to your best practice, right? Then for the physical memory, I have removed the not equal sign from here. So when it says okay, available physical memory is high, it will send you the report, right? But it should be like if memory status is not equals to available physical memory is high, it will send you the report. And then you will go to your system and check okay, what are the things that is causing the high CPU or high memory usage, right? You can easily do that. Let me quickly show you this query. I already ran this query. This query gave me the SQL handle, the execution count of the particular query, the total CPU usage, total CPU time in seconds, average CPU time in second, total elapsed minutes, elapsed seconds, milliseconds, then total elapsed time in seconds, those things. And then most importantly, it will give you the SQL Server text, that particular TSQL statement it will give you. So you can copy, paste, and then use it for your uh, further troubleshooting. There are various scripts available for this kind of things, right? So this is again some system events capture mechanism. I will show you it in a bit, but let me finish this first. So this also will give you the query plan if you wanted to further troubleshoot or see why it is consuming the more CPU. You can check the particular query, you can check the execution plan and take the corrective actions according to your need, right? So that was then yeah, uh, monitoring the disk space, right? So this is the query I have used for this particular alert, where it says my disk drive is running low and it has only 25% of free space, right? So um, this is the query, right? So this is where I have change the threshold value, right? You need to change this. Maybe you may want it to be 10%, right? Right, so this doesn't meet the criteria, the threshold value, so it do not. But let's say if it is 30%, right? Because we have only 24%, which is again, I mean, meeting the criteria here. It gives you the result and sends you the alert, right? um, right, so yeah, I was mentioning about when I was mentioning about the query plan, right? uh, or let's say this particular query, let me expand this a bit. Yeah, select target data from system.dm underscore xe sessions, session target, right? This is a system DMV for extended events, right? So back in the days, whenever we wanted to check the workload on the production system, we want to monitor how the query is behaving and those kind of things, we need to set up the profiler. Now profiler is a very resource consuming tool, inbuilt tool, but it is resource consuming. It takes lots of CPU and memory resources of your server. Now if you consider, like, your system is already running low on resources, and then you run the profiler, where it goes, right? So uh, Microsoft has then make this feature available, which is called extended event. For extended event, you need to go to the management folder, expand it, and you will see the extended events. So it is also there is a feature for system traces, where whenever your system is started, right, whenever your system starts, you will yeah, let's go this, you will find a message that okay, the default trace is running. Let me quickly show you. See, this is the thing, right? SQL Server audit trace ID was started by SA. So this particular SQL trace, which is a system default trace, uh, is started, and it start whenever the restart, whenever the SQL Server restarts. So like that, as extended event has a default system health extended events keep on running, so that you can have the details available to you for the further monitoring. You can do different kind of extended events configure for your need. For example, uh, I have configured this particular extended event called extend intensive queries. Since this is not the production system and it don't have workload or any queries running, it will not report any major issues or things. But if you want, we can quickly check the default system health extended events. Okay, by the way, let me quickly show you how you can create an extended events. So let's click, you need to click on session and start the new session wizard. Click on next, um, and name anything that you that suits your need. When you click on this particular checkbox, it will start the event session at the server startup. Then you can choose from the templates. If suitable template is available, right, it will you can choose it from there. So let's say I will select TSQL logs, click on next, then it will give you the all the different event that can be captured. You can then click any of these, right? It will then give you the event fields, and then you can click on it and add that into the selected events. Click on next, and it will then give you the global fields. Let's not go much in detail because this is extended event setup configuration, and then use is a different topic altogether that can have another session. But let's quickly wrap this up. Set session event details, then here you will need to mention specify save data to a file for later analysis, right? You can browse, click on browse and select the location where you want to keep them. You can set the maximum file size, you can enable rollover and all those things. Once this is all done, click on finish. I'm not clicking on finish because I'm not creating it for the moment, and let's use the one we already have in place. So this is the query to read the data from the extended event capture mechanism that you probably have set, or if you want to set in future. Clicking on execution, and then this will give me the this gave me the two events. Okay, so that was a limitation for the XML file and things. This second one is open, right? So this is the information that we will read. So this particular says, okay, this file is created. So these are the different there may be a different other things that is mentioned, like you can also, I mean, do the filter mentioning the you want to read the ring buffer details, right? So those things you can easily monitor with the extended events as well, right? Okay, so these are the some of the important ones, but it is not really limited. There are many more things. uh, this particular set of queries, I have downloaded it from this site, right? This is written by Glenn Allen Berry. He is very famous for writing the diagnostic queries. We Glenn, and we all know it by Glenn and Berry's diagnostic queries. And these are very wonderful queries for the monitoring or the audit or inspection purposes. So there are lots of important queries like this one, uh, which uh, which will give you the average CPU utilization is as it is mentioned here, right? Then CPU load the CPU utilization in past 3 minutes into a timetable, and so this is the query that I have also used, right, for the monitoring purpose. Uh, then there is queries to find if the default trace or this user trace is running or not, if your database is encrypted or not, what is the page life expectancy counter value at this moment, and if you need to do something about that if the number is lowered, right? um, then there are many other queries that are you will see. If we talk about these queries only, it will uh, I am not sure if 2 hours will be enough, right? So you can use some of his query or maybe all of these queries according to your need, and you can set the you can set the monitoring using the database mail feature to send you an alert when something goes wrong, right? Um, I will also talk about few other things which is very important, say for a day-to-day life of database administrator. For example, let's talk about the backups, right? We all know that backups are very important, right? So this particular query, the first query will give you an idea if the backups runs in last 24 hours or not, right? So uh, as you can see, we don't have any backup configured here, right? There is no backup job here, so backup is not running, and that's why this report generates no result, right? So let's see one more report. So this particular, the second script, this script will give you the name of the database for which the backup did not completed or not run in last 24 hours, right? So lots of database. These are all demo databases. Then this particular report is also an important report. This will give you an idea about that, okay, how long since my last backup ran for this particular server. So backup age basically. So here is the number of days since the last backup completed, 433 days. So almost, not almost, more than a year since last full backup completed. You can also filter this report uh, to give you an alert if the database, a full database is failed, or differential or log backup is failed, right? This is the value for that, bs.type. So this is about the, this was about the backup reports. Let me close this. So yeah, and say for example there are there is an event there which some user is reported or some developer has reported that I have accidentally deleted some record, and that record is important, you want to get that back, right? So there are lots of other things that you can do to get this particular deleted record back, right? But what is the way that you can get that particular report or that record information which is deleted or which is inserted accidentally using any default system procedures, right? So here is the thing, what you need to do is you need to get the ID, right? The object ID of your objects. Let's say we are talking about one table called ADM disk space in which is in the DBA database. Let me query that. I get this particular object ID. So what I will be doing is I will be passing this value here, right? And what I have used is this guy called sys.fn underscore dblog. So what this does is this reads the log file, transaction log file, right? As we all know that transaction log file keeps all the information, every single thing uh, inside of it, and then you can read it using this undocumented way. So you maybe, I mean, take your own risk and perform these actions if you need. Then uh, but most of the third party tools also use this particular function, right? So let's see what we can get with these particular things. I'm not showing you how we can retrieve the record back or do things, but this particular query will give you the enough information of what are the operations that are performed. Okay, so this is roll log contains 1 2 LSN. This is the important thing, right? If something is get deleted, it will also get reported here. LOP insert rows. Right? So let's just see if okay, quickly open a new query, select star from EDM. So we have two values. I'm deleting one record from here. Where ID is equals 2. Right, so now we have only one record. Mm, So what you are seeing here is a reference of a deleted rows record, right? So you can then perform some more actions and then you can retrieve that particular record back. But that's a lots of manual work and tweaking, twisting other scripts in undocumented way, which is not guaranteed. So use your own risk, but you can do that. So this is also something that you can use for your info as a monitoring. Say for example, when an operation is LOP delete rows in your main transaction table, if delete operation is performed, it sends you the report, right? You can do this and you can save some of your time and effort in future, right? So you can use this particular query for that purpose as well. Then there is this information called weight. This also comes from Glenn Allen Berry. So this particular query captures the weight statistic details. So this particular weight information related weight statistics, what does that mean is where your SQL server is waiting to perform the query further, right? So these are few information or few details that comes from my uh, development server. These events or these particular weight types are not red hair, but there may be few, right? CX packet, those kind of, then page IOLH, those kind of details that you should be worried or concerned about. What you need to see here is the running percentage, and then based on the value, you may target top 5 or top 2 or top 3 weight types to further diagnosis, analysis, and resolving or fixing your query performance, right? So these are the few information about the queries that we can use for uh, getting us alert about how our system is behaving, if it is behaving optimal or not, right? So these are not the only way. There is also one more way which is native and available since long. So those things are called as an alerts and operators. So inside of SQL Server agent, you will see operators. So operator is nothing but the uh, your email ID or a pager email ID, right? And those things. And what are the things that you wanted to monitor, right? If I want to monitor uh, jobs, the jobs are listed and it will send me an email on the failure, So you can configure it this way, the SQL monitor. You can also set the start time and end time during the weekend, right? Normally should not, but you may, if you want it that way. Then there is this thing called alert. So currently I have not configured any alert because these don't give much of the information the way we need. So that's why the DBML and the customized queries I have used. But let me give you one example. I'm clicking on new alert, and from here what you need to select the type is type, right? So what you want to do is, say for example, SQL Server performance condition alert. If my mm, database active transaction alert if counter false rises above, say for 2, right? uh, alert 1, right? So if for this, but so for a database, if my DBA database, if my the current transactions, the counter values of what the active transaction goes beyond 2, right? So more than 2 transaction, active transactions, it will send it. It does what it response will be notify operator. Now here comes your operator is SQL mon. What you need to do is, okay, click on this checkbox email. So what it will do is, then finally it will send you an email alert, okay, that active transaction goes beyond 2. You optionally you may also want to send the additional text, okay, where to look. And this is the way you configure the alert. Click on OK, and this alert is in now place. So if the event is triggered, for example, if there are more than two active transactions for DBA database, it will send you an alert, right? So this is few methods and techniques or scripts or whatever you would like to call it, uh, native way to monitor the SQL server, right? So, and as I mentioned, these are the few things that I have showed you, but there are many more that you may want to explore uh, according to your organization's best practice and your need based on your workload, right? So this was about the demo, and looks like the demo god has accepted all the prayers because demos run fine. Okay, I'm open for the questions. If you have any, you may ask the questions into the live chat window, and I will respond to your questions.
No, the interview. So I don't see any questions right now, but it was really nice to have a front row view of all the queries you are writing, Hemant. Uh, I would suggest that we may also have one of the sessions whereby you can show how to use Windows performance counters to monitor various SQL server related stuff, right? That would bring on table even the Windows administrator, and they might help SQL server people to troubleshoot and to monitor and to help them think. So it was really a nice thing, and sorry that I forgot to congratulate you on getting the MVP award once again for the fifth time. So I would like to mention to the audience that Hemant has received not 5 awards, but he is, I think, the only person who has received the MVP in SQL Server for the fifth time, right? So this is basically a great achievement on his behalf, and I am really proud, and I think even Surat should be proud of his achievements, and definitely Surat and the region would be very fortunate to have his services as and when required. So definitely, guys, I would like to tell you that please go on his blogs, ask him questions, and take his help whenever you see fit. So Hemant, congratulations once again
Thank
being
you.
awarded for the MVP.
Thank you, Tejas bhai.
Right. So I don't see any questions right now. So what I would suggest is let us take a small break and come back if to see if there are other questions. The video, please.
प्राचीन काल से विश्व भर में व्यापार क्षेत्र में प्रचलित रहा है सूरत शहर। सिल्क सिटी और डायमंड सिटी का खिताब पाने वाला सूरत शहर कपड़ा एवं हीरे के गहनों के सर्वाधिक उत्पादन से समग्र राष्ट्र में प्रथम क्रम पर रहा है। इस शहर के व्यापारियों, उद्योग साहसिकों और नए उद्यमियों के स्टार्टअप को प्रोत्साहन, वित्तीय सहाय संबंधित मार्गदर्शन एवं योग्य मंच मुहैया करवाने हेतु सूरत स्मार्ट सिटी डेवलपमेंट लिमिटेड द्वारा एक महत्वपूर्ण प्रयास यानी अटल इनोवेशन मिशन अंतर्गत मान्यता प्राप्त इनोवेशन, इंक्यूबेशन, स्टार्टअप एंड ट्रेड फैसिलिटेशन सेंटर AIC सुरती आई लैब, जिसका उद्घाटन माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी के कर कमलों द्वारा हुआ। इंटीग्रेटर, एग्रीगेटर, कोलैबोरेटर और फैसिलिटेटर के रूप में स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को बढ़ावा देने हेतु AIC सुरती आई लैब कार्यरत है। भारत सरकार की एवं गुजरात सरकार की इनोवेशन प्रमोशन योजनाओं का अनुमोदन करते हुए 120 कोवर्किंग कैपेसिटी वाले इस केंद्र में उद्यमशीलता को बढ़ावा देने हेतु अलग वातानुकूलित कैबिन्स, अत्याधुनिक उपकरणों से सुसज्जित मीटिंग रूम्स, टीचिंग लैब, मिनी लैब, वर्कशॉप रूम, सुविधाजनक ऑडिटोरियम के साथ पेंट्री रूम, कैफेटेरिया और फ्री वाईफाई जैसी अनेक सुविधाएं उपलब्ध है। हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए SVNIT, और यूनिवर्सिटी, यस बैंक, द साउथ गुजरात चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स एंड इंडस्ट्री जैसे करीब 19 फैसिलिटेटर, वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट और इन्वेस्टर पार्टनर्स की मदद से स्टार्टअप को जरूरी प्लेटफॉर्म उपलब्ध करवाया जाता है। इस प्रकल्प द्वारा स्थानिक लघु उद्योगों एवं स्टार्टअप एकमों को राष्ट्रीय एवं अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंध स्थापित करते हुए अपने व्यवसाय के विकास में सहाय रूप मंच प्राप्त होगा। AIC सुरती आई लैब, सूरत महानगर पालिका एवं सूरत स्मार्ट सिटी डेवलपमेंट लिमिटेड द्वारा सूरत शहर के वाणिज्य क्षेत्र में एक और स्मार्ट कदम।
Yeah, welcome back, and still we do not have any questions from the audience. So I think the audience is pleased with what you have shown, and I'm sure they would be using all the scripts that you have copied. So once again, I would like to thank you all the audience for being with us on this pleasant evening, and I would like to remind you that the recording of these sessions and all the previous webinars of this series as well as the other series can be viewed on our website www.surtiilab.org/webinars. I would also like you to go ahead and subscribe our YouTube channel, press the notification icon, the bell button. Also, I would like you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook if possible, so that you are kept updated about the happenings at AIC Surti iLab, and you can take the best of the benefits not only of our webinars but of other events as well as our startup support system. So once again, thank you, Hemant, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you for having me. I wish you all a very pleasant evening.